Oh, you know what? Usually I start this section with something of importance, of great importance in the world, to tell you, to inform you, to let you know what is happening out there. But you know what, Matt? Let's just start the show. 3, 2, 1. Hello again. Welcome back to Matt.
Wait. Hold on. I know you're trying to start the show, but you say you usually start it with something of importance.
That's a lie. That's my first lie.
Except this is the first time in, 42 years that a president, this time a case, a former president and presidential candidate, has had a shot taken at them, and you're not going to mention it.
Oh, that's the thing that happened. Yeah, that did. I can't wait for the movie. Who's going to play Donald Trump in the movie? That's the question.
Oh, God.
Could it be Macaulay Culkin? We do a full circle Home Alone kind of situation?
No, he'd have to put on like 3 bills.
What else is Macaulay doing? He could go back on that pizza, Velvet Underground pizza tour that he did. Just eat more pizza, some ice cream. He'd be good. And besides,
every so often he pops up with the Red Letter Media guys, which is awesome.
I love it when he does that. I'm so jealous that he has the vest from the Warriors. I just wish that I too could have that. But I'm not cool enough. But Matt, I wonder sometimes, is anybody cool enough to listen to this show? Because we talk about movies in the coolest way possible. I assume that you have a tuxedo on today? No.
I'm wearing my pajamas.
Oh, you know what? I've got red pants on. If I could lift my leg up, I would show you, but I am in wires and cables
Don't do
everywhere.
that. Wait, nobody needs to see that. Nobody needs to see that.
Here it comes.
Please don't.
Oh, cables.
I saw a peek of the red.
It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood for us here at the Matt Men Movies Podcast. We are on a new season this year. I hope, we pray that technologically we've even advanced. I hope we got a little bit better picture. Matt is throwing in on doing some editing, so I really appreciate that. It's going to look beautiful because he is the expert in all such things. While we start a new season, you know what? I'm so excited. We are starting a new season on Twisters Weekend. By the time this comes out, the box office numbers will already tell you that Twisters made $8 billion this weekend. But if it does not, Matt...
The early numbers are saying that its opening day is like 38.
Yes.
It's just I think like $500,000 shy of Oppenheimer. And Oppenheimer opened, let's be honest, a lot of it helped because of, the Barbenheimer thing.
It did, indeed.
So I said that I think Twisters was going to be the surprise this year, and it might end up being one of the highest grossing ones because I think it's going to have some legs. I think this one will actually stay in the theater, hopefully for a while. Unlike Fall Guy or Horizon.
That definitely hasn't been the lesson so far, so it will actually kind of be a surprise if it stays in the theater, God forbid. But that is where you should see it. I'm super excited. I've already got my tickets ready to go. I will be in the theater, not in the fancy one. I always think this, if I'm going to do a movie in those little rumble seats, this would be the one. But I feel like I'm just going to get seasick in those things. I don't think they're for me.
I think it's kind of like 3D, where a lot of times it kind of masks what could normally be mediocre filmmaking.
Okay. So you don't believe in that enhancing the experience at all?
Not so much. It's hard enough to make a movie work without adding gimmicks to it.
That is very fair.
Like there are like 3 movies I can think of where 3D really helped the experience.
Have you done the 4D? You get the stuff in the wind and the water and stuff?
I actually shot a video for Cinemark's 40X or whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a video for them.
How is that? Do you like things hitting you in the face while you're watching a movie?
Again, I'm kind of old school. Like, I actually prefer, I'm not the biggest fan of the huge recliners,
I know, but I've gotten so spoiled now at this point.
Yeah.
If my local movie theater, shout out to the Guild Cinema in Albuquerque, was showing one of Tarkovsky's film, I think Stalker, the other day, And I was like, 2 hours and 30 minutes of Tarkovsky in those uncomfortable seats. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
mean,
I can
there's
do
a
it.
difference between like a regular seat and an uncomfortable seat. You know?
Yeah, they're just old school theater seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm too fancy for that. I'm a recliners man, but I'm still going to be in the theaters to see all the glory that is Glenn Powell. Should I talk for 8 hours about how much I love Glenn Powell, or would that be a little inappropriate?
Well, my favorite thing about Glenn Powell, like I think I mentioned this last time. There's a video of him watching Twisters, like after watching Twisters in the theater, and some people are taking pictures of him and Tom Cruise.
TC,
right?
baby.
And Tom Cruise is like, "Hey, why don't you hold up your popcorn?" And basically like teaching him, like, "Hey, you're a movie star. You need to, be able to show off your merch, and this is how you do it." And it almost feels like Tom Cruise has like selected this guy, and it's like, I will groom you, and if you listen to me, you might be able to, be a movie star. Like, because we don't have a whole lot of movie stars, and Glenn Powell is very close to being a movie star. But I don't know, because like
what a weird career
apparently his next one is The Running Man with
I know, yeah.
Edgar Wright. So that'll be interesting, because that's a movie that, like, even though it's like almost 40 years old, still feels fresh and new, and still feels relevant. So Twisters. Okay, yeah, we could get a. I'm surprised we haven't gotten 3 Twister movies since the original already.
Sure.
You know,
It's amazing to me that he is. I mean, I don't know him personally or anything, but it seems to be that you have some kind of control over your ego when you should have been a bigger star about 3 or 4 years ago, but COVID he was probably the one person at the top of the list that COVID halted that movement of him getting to be the biggest star in the world, with Top Gun ended up not coming out, and that was just going to be his presentation to the world. So it's been fascinating to kind of watch his career. I loved him from Linkletter's film, Everybody Wants Some. He was fantastic in that film. And
his other Linkletter film.
Do what?
His other Linkletter, Hitman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that too. Yes. See,
And that
but it's
was
still
delightful. That was delightful.
It was 3.25 delightful. It was still a Richard Linklater film. So.
Well, I love Linklater. But you heard the story about him getting hired on Top Gun, right?
Yes, tell the people the story.
Okay, so originally he was supposed to play Rooster, the Miles Teller part, and he didn't get it. And they said, "Hey, we still want you to be in the movie," and he's like, "I don't know." And Tom said, "Hey, why don't you come meet with me and Jerry Bruckheimer?" So he went and met with the two of them, and Tom said, "What do you want from your career?" And he goes, "Well, I want to be you. I mean, you're the GOAT. I want to be you." And let's be honest, the only person that can still get people back into a theater with their name alone is Tom Cruise. He's like only guy who can do it anymore.
Yep.
And he said, "I want to be you." And they're like, "Okay." So you're trying to find the right role. He goes, "What you want to find is the right movie, and find a role in that movie and make it yours."
Sure.
It's kind of like Magnolia is a big movie with a whole bunch of like the best actors of their generation. And Tom Cruise does not have the biggest role in it, but he has a very important role, and it's a good movie. So it's like, or Taps even, or Born on the 4th of July, right?
Yep.
Find these movies where you can have a great role in it, especially if you're not, the headliner yet. With Top Gun, they convinced him to do it, and honestly, I love his character. I think his character might be more interesting than Rooster, Yep. I like the fact that not only is he the braggart, but he backs it up. I like everything about it, and he, it seems like he's listening to Tom. And if you're going to listen to someone, you listen to Tom.
Sure. The final, just the perfect puzzle piece to end what I hope is always the great celebrity is when the GQ comes to your house, and whether it's for the 50 questions or whether it's you're showing off your refrigerator and your gym. How are you in that situation? And there was nobody more charming than Glenn Powell whenever they went to his house. He had so many of the same things as I had in my refrigerator. You know what? And stars are just like us. Isn't that right? They're just like us.
Right, just like us.
It is beautiful. So, Twisters, we will talk about that in a week or two whenever everybody has seen it.
Yeah,
so
I haven't gotten to see it yet. Like
And
I have to see that and Long Legs because those two are both out.
hey, you know what? This isn't on the list, but since you said that, let's talk a bit about the marketing for this Longlegs movie, which has been
Yeah.
brilliant. They have done such
Well,
a great job.
it's funny because when we talked about, I did that long story about AI, and that game. Well, they tried something similar with Long Legs. I don't think it really caught on because even I forgot about it. But they had a couple of websites where you had to log in, and there were codes that you had to break. You had to, figure out the cipher.
Yep.
And they were doing the same thing. And for the longest time, until people started reviewing the movie, I don't think anyone could have told you that Nicolas Cage was even in it.
Correct.
You know, so yeah, it's neat that they really played up the mystery, and it's just we're presenting you with an atmosphere, and we're showing you, weird cryptic text, and it's called Long Legs. Why? Who knows?
Viggo Mortensen is mad, and we need to establish if he is right about being mad or not. He released a movie in 2022 that he was very disgruntled at Amazon for just dumping on the streaming service, calling it appalling and shameful. And he said film criticism is pretty poor these days. First of all, Viggo, I take direct umbrage with that because we are fantastic and we've been doing it and we'll continue to do it.
Well,
that
I
being
think they're
said,
talking okay.
No, he's
here's
talking
my
directly
question.
at us.
No. So here's my question though.
Yes.
Like when you talk about modern film criticism, who are you talking about? Are you talking about the people who still do, like the Rotten Tomatoes critics who write for the Chicago Sun-Times and people like that? Are you talking about the reviewers on TikTok who keep their phones on during a movie? Are you talking about the Chris Stuckmans? Or are you just talking about like Rolling Stone and Slate and because it seems like it's far less of a defined profession than it used to be. I mean, back in 30 years ago, you had Siskel, Ebert, Gene Shalit, and Leonard Maltin, and that was kind of like who people knew. Mm-hmm. And that's about it. And the critic, John Lovitz.
Right. Yeah.
So who are you talking about? And maybe it's the fact that movie criticism seems worse because everyone can have an opinion whether or not they really deserve to be listened to. You know what I mean?
That's true.
One of my last classes at SC was taught by Leonard Maltin. And it was a class everybody wanted to get into because he'd always show new movies that hadn't come out yet. And then you'd talk to people who made them, whether it was an actor, producer, director, whatever. And his first day of class, he got really upset when talking about film criticism. And again, this is 20 years ago. And he was saying, a newspaper will send only someone who knows everything about football to cover a football game. They're not going to send someone who doesn't know the players, who doesn't know the rules, who doesn't know the history. They're not going to do that. However, they will send anyone, as long as they have a journalism degree, to cover a film, whether or not they deserve to. And coming out of college, when we first moved to Texas, I looked at going to some smaller local papers and doing film reviews for them. I said, "Hey, I majored in cinema, television, critical studies at USC. People like Leonard Maltin were my professors. I can do some reviews for you." And they said, "No, because you don't have a journalism degree." It's like, well, I know how to write. And I thought that having the writing and the history and the knowledge of film history, film production, film theory would be more important than just journalism degree.
Sure.
But they didn't see it that way. And again, this is 20 years ago. So is it just worse now because any swinging D can, start a podcast like we did?
I think that we are beginning to swing back the other way because I think only in the sense that specialty stuff. Let's be clear on that, because that's what I think of in these terms. Because I know that mainstream is never going to be this again, right? Movies are not going to be important in mainstream in the way that they always were, except occasionally. So you cannot expect a media place to employ somebody that's actually smart about talking about that, right? So you have to go to specialty places. So whether it's the blog on the New Bev's website, right? Or all the essays that Arrow puts out that's included with their DVDs and their Blu-rays and that kind of thing. Or whether the horror people, some of the stuff that I read sometimes, I'm just fascinated by reading essays about the movie, about the horror movie. I'm probably not even going to watch Longlegs, but I am fascinated by somebody that's able to break that down properly and kind of really talk about its understanding and the greater a greater understanding of how films are and where it comes from and what's the history there and what it means at this point. And I love those kind of ideas, and I think it is slightly coming back in that way. But again, unfortunately, it's just going to be in a specialty way. You're not going to get a Leonard Maltin. You're not going to get an Ebert and Roper ever again. I just don't think.
Then you really need to start watching The Last Drive-In. Last night, he said, we're going to get nerdy with things. And man, did he. He does these deep dives on these movies that go into a crazy amount of detail. And, Joe Bob Briggs, is not his real name. It's a character, John Bloom is a writer who started, in newspapers reviewing movies, and he's done books, and he is a brilliant mind and has a knowledge of film that I wish I had. And he's seen just about everything. He's done just about everything. And I love the fact that he gets all of that across through, a redneck character like Joe Bob Briggs. Right. I love that because he's able to kind of dumb things down for everyone. But meanwhile, he's still kind of he's still the smartest person in the room. It's like...
you said that and I just thought about Bob Newhart, R.I.P., man.
Yeah. I was in an interview once with Thomas Hayden Church. And before it started, I could see him talking to people and him assessing the fact that oh, I'm the smartest person in here. Okay. And then you could see him have fun with the interview and him kind of talk circles around the people who are running it.
Right.
And it's funny because, he got popular playing an idiot on Wings. No one assumes that he's as smart as he is,
Also Ned and Stacey, for the 7 people that watch Ned and Stacey.
Right. But as far as film criticism, I don't know. It feels like film criticism used to be the most popular thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
And now it seems like that's making way for reaction videos.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a place for those, and there's a place for the TikTok movie reviews. I'm not above any of those things. I was contemplating my my life and all my decisions with all my gray hair in here. So just let people talk about movies. Just keep the love of movies alive. Keep continuing to be that. But God dang, sometimes I'm going to reflect real quick on how great I am at setting myself up for transitions, and I just nailed that. But now I've ruined it because I explained it. But that's okay because I'm proud of myself. Why, Matt? Woosah, I'm going to calm down before I ask you this question, before I start making fun of people. What world are we living in that just because yellow Wolverine outfit makes grown men cry now?
Okay.
Is that where we're at? Hugh Jackman shows up with this suit on, and I know it's the first time ever, but oh my God, everybody, take a step back. Oh, what is happening out there in the world, Matt? Why?
Okay,
Why?
so I'll tell you why.
Yes,
I'll tell you why.
Oh, okay, please.
It's kind of like when you see, reaction videos of people crying when the CGI-faced Luke shows up at the end of Mandalorian Season 2. It's because
so it's going to be a group of people who are those kind of people. Okay.
No. Mm-hmm. It's more than that. He's the only person to ever play Wolverine in live action. The only one. He's played him more than anyone has played any character, I believe, on film. Mm-hmm. He's exclusively played him for 24 years. 24. And it was something where he had retired, and we're like, well, we're just never going to see him in the suit. And kind of like, we'll never see Luke Skywalker, truly be a Jedi. And then all of a sudden you get it. And it's not you reacting to it. It's you from the time you fell in love with this stuff. So there are people on set who might have watched, 24 years. You're talking, people who might have seen the first X-Men when they were 6. You know?
Yeah, you're not going to sell me. I'm not going to be in on that. I'm
No,
a
no, no,
grown
no,
adult
no.
person.
It's because it's tapping into something from your childhood, and while it's probably just hyperbole for selling the movie, I wouldn't doubt it if it happened to a couple of people because they said that when Brandon Routh was on the CW set for their Crisis on Infinite Worlds, right, and he walked onto set in his Superman costume, they said the whole place just went quiet. And because it's one thing to see these things on screen, but it's another thing to see them in person. When I was on the set of Spider-Man the second time, it was the first time they shot with the suit, right? And I was standing around waiting for the scene to kind of get going, and I turned to my left, and all of a sudden there was a stunt guy, and he was in the suit. And it was the first time I had seen the suit. They hadn't even released a publicity still of this thing. And I'm just and he didn't even have the eyes because they had to hammer the eyes into the mask. He didn't even have those in, so you could see it wasn't Toby. And I'm just standing there, literally touching, shoulder to shoulder with Spider-Man, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" And I just started pressing on the suit, and the guy looked at me, and I'm like, "I can't help it. I'm so sorry. I've just got to this is amazing," and it's different when you see that childhood fantasy realized in person, right? It becomes larger than life, and it's life. You are seeing it right there. So I can totally imagine people getting emotional just because it's something you never thought you'd see. Is it silly? Kind of, but it's also kind of nice that we haven't ruined everything, and we can still enjoy something that's kind of pure. Now, that said, would this have happened on a movie set, 50 years ago? No. But you also didn't have this kind of IP tied in, right? You didn't have something like this. This is kind of unique,
I reject everything you just said. It probably did happen on movie 50 years ago whenever John Wayne stumbled out from his trailer. And
No.
Yes.
No, because
Yes.
John Wayne churned out a lot of the same kinds of movies. And it was never he retired and then he came back and we're finally going to get to see him do that one thing that we never thought we'd see. Okay, you mentioned it, so I got to go into it.
Please do.
I've seen so many people talking back in my day, we had real men like John Wayne. It's John Wayne was under 6 feet tall.
Yes.
And he put on makeup and played pretend for a living. He was not a real Western cowboy hero. He played pretend. I'm sorry, as tough as some of these guys can be, they put on makeup and play pretend for a living. We can't forget that that's what they do. They are not their characters, right?
Right.
It's I don't know. People who say Archie Bunker, that was my guy. That's a real man. It's no. Again, a character on a sitcom, and Carol O'Connor was nothing like Archie Bunker. In fact, the only reason he did it was to make fun of people like Archie Bunker.
Can I just tell you that you're lucky this is a movie podcast, because with the disdain that you just said the word sitcom, we would get in a fight if this was a TV show thing.
I love sitcoms. It's just,
I learned
it doesn't
every life lesson that I've ever known from a sitcom. Prove me wrong.
That's awful, and that explains a whole lot about you. That's really terrible. Bill Watterson, the guy who created Calvin and Hobbes in the early 90s, complained that all sitcoms were at that point was an excuse to insult each other for 30 minutes. And if you watch stuff like Married to Children, as much as I love it, that's all it is. It's just people insulting each other for half an hour.
See, but I wasn't allowed to watch Married with Children. So I got my education from places like Who's the Boss, who Tony Danza always gives me good life lessons and understanding.
Angela.
I have noticed too. Also, you know what? While we're talking about Tony Danza, maybe not the greatest movie star in the world, but I will tell you some things. Watching him work over the last 5 seasons of Who's the Boss, his handwork and his technical movement in that way is so good sometimes. Like, he can just nail, like, he does this thing where he, like, kind of rubs his chest, and it just sometimes hits perfectly in his scenes. Tony Danza, I love him as an actor. And as a person, too. He seems to be a nice person. I didn't think you didn't think we were going to get into Tony Danza today, did you? Favorite Tony Danza movie?
I know he's in Crash, and that's about it. And I hate Crash. There are not a whole lot of movies I'll say I hate, but that is one of them.
That is a wretched, horrible, awful movie.
How in the hell did that thing win Best Picture? How in the hell?
Well, it was that creator guy. What was his name? Paul, whatever his name is? Yeah. He was a Hollywood guy and like forever and ever, and he never got anything. And they're like, oh, great, you taught us all a lesson today. And the lesson was no lesson. It was hokey.
There's no lesson.
No.
It's just this for 2 hours. Hey, guess what? That guy's racist. Guess what? I'm racist. Everybody's racist. And there's never, what are we going to do about it? How'd we get here? Anything like that. It's just, everybody's racist. It doesn't make any comment on it. It's like, if you want that, go watch Do the Right Thing. You know?
Sure.
Or like a million other movies. But like, man, and the moment they did the thing with the blanks, I knew it too. Like they set up the blanks like 20 minutes earlier, and you're like, oh, those aren't real bullets in there. They tried to stop.
Yeah, you remember way more of that movie than I do. I only remember like the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, because like it's like I remember the opening scene. Like
the carjacking, that's the easy part. That's the rest
where
of
he's like, where they're talking about like person probably thinks we're gonna rob him, and they like let's rob him. Yeah. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing?
Abuse so many great actors. Matt Dillon, why is he in there?
Abused so many great actors. That's a great way to put it. That is a great way to put it.
Fucking Crash, man.
Okay, the real quick turn. Have you ever suggested a movie to someone they got upset at you after watching?
Yes. There's a movie that starred some of my favoriteest people in the whole wide world: Barry Pepper, Vin Diesel, Seth Green, and it's called Knockaround Guys. And I said to my cousin one time, I said, now this is a very fun...
I know it was going to be something like this.
This is a very fun crime watch. You should watch this. And he goes, okay, I believe you. I'm going to watch this movie. And then about a week later, I got a message. And he said, I hate you, and I'm never going to listen to you again. I was like, but see, you need to watch Killing Them Softly with Brad Pitt. That will make up for that. And he's still never seen Killing Them Softly because he holds it against me because I recommended that to him after Knockaround Guys.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a Serbian film?
Yeah.
Okay. So when it first was doing the festival run and like it was banned here, I'm like, man, movies are never banned here in the U.S. Right. I got to find me a copy of this. So I got a copy of it and I watched it and I'm like, this makes me feel like a worse person. I feel like part of my soul has died. I wish I'd never watched this. And I told somebody at work, a friend, cinephile, and he's like, well, I got to see it. I'm like, don't trust me on this. Don't watch it. He's like, oh, give me a copy. I'm like, fine. Came back the next day. He's like, dude, I hated this. I feel like part of me died. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah.
So we're talking about it, and a friend of ours at work who, another cinephile, kind of a hardcore dude, like he worked at this place doing like art design and layout, but his like 9 to 5, that was his 9 to 5, but on the side he was a tattoo artist, right? And he's like, oh, I've heard about that. I want to check it out. I'm like, no, you don't. So he finally broke us down. We gave him a copy, and he came back the next day, and he said to us, dude, I hate this. And by the way, my girlfriend, who worked with us as well, she walked in while I was watching this, and I told them I told her that you guys told me to watch this and that I had never heard of it. So she asks, that's the only way I kept it from going bad last night. I'm like, first of all, thanks for that.
Right.
Second, maybe not watch it while she's in the house. And third, obviously no one should ever watch this movie.
No.